It's always good to change habits, but the key to total reformation and transformation is change your identity. I am whatever you finish that with. I am. So if you say things like, I'm not a reader, or I'm not that, whatever that is, like, that's what you're doing, is loading in all of this stuff. And if you say I am, so for example, I started saying I am a successful business owner. I am a person that, and I changed not my habits. The habits changed anyways because my identity shifted. I identified as, I started looking for mentorship. I sought it with every breath. Everything, when they said read a book, I didn't read the book. I ate the book. It's like they were like, oh, did you read that book? I'm like, yeah, 4 times.
You're listening to the Rich State of Mind Show, the podcast made to make you the total package in the entrepreneurial world and give you what we call a rich state of mind. If you are here looking to learn about real estate investing, marketing, elevating your business, and developing your mindset to get to the next level, then you are at the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join our community on richstateofmind.com. Now here's your host, Anthony Ritchie.
Hey, Casey, thanks for taking the time in this early morning for us, you in Toronto, Canada, me in Virginia. And we already been, talk a good back and forth about our backgrounds. And I love your energy, man, and your source of information. So if you could please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure, buddy. I've been involved in all kinds of industries, owned over 30 companies, and my passion is people. When I got involved in the networking industry years ago, I realized that it wasn't about networking, it was about helping others. Today, I run a company called Human Potential International, and we're gifting away awareness to people so that they can change their lives. And I, of course, financially take care of myself just doing business consulting, and it's a pleasure to do that.
Awesome. And so, man, you gotta share with the audience your background, because your story is a testament to the man that you are today, and I think it's also very relatable. So your story is unique, right? How you was breaking it down to me, but I think somebody can say, "Hey, look, I had that type of background, and it is possible to kind of switch, flip the switch throughout time." So, just to share with us a little bit what that process was like.
Well, most people are familiar with, if you go Google me right now, you'll find out I was the #1 distributor in Canada for the Amway company, right? So Amway Corporation created this opportunity, but the real story doesn't happen in the $30 million I netted working there. I did 500 million in sales. That's not my story. The real story began when I was born, right? And I was just sharing with you personally, I think it's like offline. I was like, dude, like my story is like my mom gave birth to me and my dad wasn't really there, and he came back 3 years later, and it's not like I wasn't born with a silver spoon, is what I'm trying to say. Is like, I know what it's like when my mom's just scraping so that we can keep a roof over our head. And, my dad did the right thing. He came back and he ended up being a good dad, but it was like that, the stories that kind of shape you, when you're younger and you're in the playground. I was joking with you because, I remember being 7 years old, breaking, entering, set a garage on fire. I was stealing. I was in a gang. It was insane. The police came to the door and, basically said, listen, you either move this kid out of this neighborhood or he'll be in jail. He'll be in jail by the time he's 14, 15, and he'll be dead by the time he's 20. The kid is insanely aggressive. And, you break that down and you go, oh, okay. Well, and my parents did the right thing. They literally took every penny they had and they moved uptown and they took this kid with them, and they risked everything for that. But they knew that if they didn't take me out of that environment, things would go nasty. And quite honestly, I remember we were just talking about what happened to me in the first playground, which is, I go into that playground and I'm fresh out of, in Toronto, there's a space called the Danforth, which is kind of like where a lot of the immigrants come in from other parts of the country. And we lived on the Danforth, and that wasn't right or wrong. It was good or bad, but it's a little rough, it's a little rough, right? Not the kind of roughness maybe in Detroit, but it's like, it was a Toronto rough. Okay. That we have to contextualize rough. Okay. I'm certainly not talking about, the tough sides, but we grew up thinking, a lot of stuff was pretty aggressive. So when we moved up, I walked in that playground, I put on the tough kid thing, and every kid in the playground just looked at me. I cussed a couple of words out, and I was 8 years old at that point, and they're like, yeah. And they all got up, turned around, walked away. And I had zero friends like that. And I was like, oh, I guess that doesn't work here. And I experienced socialized conditioning, where it's like you start becoming a product of your environment, and it started showing up in my world. And that was, then of course, eventually I was like, okay, well, swearing, cussing, and acting like a big shot ain't going to get me nowhere on this playground. And I had to go and build rapport and say, okay, well, how am I going to fit in? So, I mean, the story goes on and on. I mean, I had no friends for most of my kind of young life, but I was a leader. I was an aggressive leader. I believed what I believed. I was willing to fight for it. It was like, when I got into a sport, I was the worst player. I always like to tell people, I said, I got into my first sport, it was hockey, and I sucked. I mean, I sucked so bad. My parents couldn't afford the skates to sharpen them. So I get on the ice and I just fall down. And, but I'd be like, just go grinding like some crazy kid. And I was like, I go to the rink every day after school because I had no friends. So I'd just sit and play with myself. Right. Eventually, I mean, like bald, like skate rails. I mean, and then finally my parents sharpened my skates and I went, oh, that's what the problem is, and off I went like Gretzky, it's like just running around and I mean, from the worst player in the league to MVP that year, and then became the assistant captain the next year, captain the next year, and scoring and getting all the goals like within 4 years, because I realized it was just misdirected energy, right? Mm. And then I was telling you just before I got into the Amway business, I was a DJ, and I got into DJing at 13. Like, so how'd you do that, Case? Well, a pastor at a church said, we need to bring more kids into the church. What should we do? And he knew I was a leader. Like everyone was. It was one of those leaderships, like people were afraid of me and excited. They're like, this guy's really exciting and he scares the shit out of me. Like, it's just like this kind of craziness, right? And I remember the pastor said, how do you bring kids? I said, oh, it's easy. Have a dance, play music, kids will show up. He goes, okay, we need a DJ. I'm like, okay. He says, who's going to do it? I go, I guess I'll do it. And he goes, all right. And I had 45s back then. I'm old, Anthony. So I had 45s and a player, and I ran around to all the people I knew and got like these little records. And then we put the dance on. 40 people showed up that first dance, and they said, hey, you did a good job. It's great. Two years later, at 15 years of age, we had 250 people in the basement, 600 people outside, police, fire trucks, and managing the crowd controls. And we were making more money on a Friday night once a month than the entire church with tithing the entire month.
That's believable.
It all to the church, you know what I mean? And it was just, and if you take me in every scenario, they dropped me in the Amway business, and I was just aggression on fire. I was hungry. I knew I wasn't born of the best stock. And I knew that if I didn't fight for my future, I would not have a future. And the big shift came when I left the DJ business. I was just done. I'm burned out. And a guy phoned me up and says, hey, you want to do like pyramid sales? I'm like, I have no idea what that is. He says, oh, they got this meeting. And I went to this meeting. This doctor stood up. He had 5 degrees. He's like, listen, we help people who have a job, who want to get out of being a job, like having a job and become their own entrepreneur. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And I went up to him and said, okay, I had long hair, mustache, shaved every 4 days, DJ'd a club, acting all that. And, and he's like, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to make $100,000 a year. This is a long time ago, Anthony, just this is 33 years ago. Right. And he goes, okay. He said, God give you 2 ears, 1 mouth. He says, you need to use them in that proportion, my friend. He says, sit down. He says, look in the mirror. He says, you know what the problem in life is? I go, no. He says, look in the mirror. I go, okay. He says, it's you. Everything you think is why you are where you are. And if you don't change that, he says, you will be exactly where you are now, just older. And 5 years later, he lied to me. I did not make $100,000 a year. I was making $100,000 a month, and I was 29. And at 30, I was making $200,000 a month. And at 31, I was making $500,000 a month, because it completely switched my identity. Let me explain the greatest thing I hope anyone takes away from this. You cannot change a habit and see a change. You'll see a micro change. It's always good to change habits, but the key to total reformation and transformation is change your identity. I am whatever you finish that with. I am. So if you say things like, I'm not a reader, or I'm not that, whatever that is, like, that's what you're doing, is loading in all of this stuff. And if you say I am, so for example, I started saying I am a successful business owner. I am a person that, and I changed not my habits. The habits changed anyways because my identity shifted. I identified as. I started looking for mentorship. I sought it with every breath. Everything. When they said read a book, I didn't read the book. I ate the book. It's like they were like, oh, did you read that book? I'm like, yeah, 4 times. Oh, why? It's because I'm not trying to read the book. I'm trying to be the book. It's the being, not the doing. People think, oh, I'll just do this and be like, if you want to be a world-class person, being a second-class person while trying to be world-class, it'll get you nowhere. And that's the thing. So I'm sorry, I'm just kind of babbling on. You
No,
wave at me when I
like
should
this.
stop, but it's like,
I like
I'm
this.
just being real, right? I'm just trying to tell people, like, it's like, you have to, it's not a trick. Anthony, it's not a trick. It's like, I listen to podcasts all the time, different people. I only listen to about 5 or 10 people because I'm like, everybody else is talking positive psychology nonsense. There's only a few things that are transformational. I get the blessing of positive psychology. You can get them into your average church. You can get them off your average YouTube. You can get them off your average everything, but it's average. There's a difference between distress and eustress. Distress is when, you get yourself into a situation where you're trying to struggle out of something. But there's Olympian stress called eustress, spelled USTRESS, where an Olympian wakes up and purposely puts himself under stress to accomplish an identity shift and achieve a whole new level of power and awareness. And that's powerful stuff, man. Like, you can rock people's lives if you can get them to own discomfort. Because once they get into, discomfort is actually all the pieces that unlock, because the discomfort is moving from one identity to a new identity.
I have this saying that I use called get comfortable being uncomfortable. I tell my son that often because the minute that you're comfortable is when you're no longer growing. And so I definitely agree with that. And so it sounds like you tapped into your potential at a young age, and people saw that at a young age. And so with your company, HPI, how are you unlocking anybody else's potential and optimizing their potential with whatever results that come to
Well, thank you for asking me that. That's it's a passion project for me. It's not focused on revenue. I spent most of my life in business consulting and obviously the networking profession, and that I'm using those to fund my passion project. My passion project is to touch millions of people's lives through advanced awareness. I believe that people would do better if they could choose better. But you choose what you choose because you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. That's why you don't have. Because if you knew what you knew, you'd have it. Because to know it and not to do it is not to know. Like, so I've got all these quotes that I use because I'm like, I think people are good systemically at their essence, who they are. I think people are good. I think they make bad choices.
Gotcha.
And having been a person who makes bad choices, I completely identify with that. So when we created Human Potential, there was a couple of pieces that were moving around my life. First of all, I had a really kind of miraculous event in 2005 where I was sitting in a seminar. I just come off, Tony Robbins, this, and all these big speakers, Les Brown. I was going to all these events. What shifted for me was I actually had a moment where I was sitting in the audience going, every speaker's talking about all this stuff, getting all these secrets, but nobody's laying it down. Like, how do I use it? Not like it's interesting, but it's not useful. And I had this moment drop in where I started hearing every speaker put information out, and it kind of fit into like 10 areas of my life. It was like relationships, business, money, spirituality, my core self, my mental health, my emotional health, my physical health. And I started, so every time a speaker would speak, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to store that in this. Well, that ended up creating something called the Life Map. The Life Map is a framework of your holistic look at your life. And that will be life-changing. If all you do is take a Life Map assessment, come and learn about what we're doing, you'll see your entire life at a glance in 10 areas. And you'll be like, oh my God, I can look at my life like that. To achieve, so the name of our company, obviously Human Potential International, is all about potential. So what do you need to unlock potential? Well, you need the trifecta of success. And the trifecta of success is 3 people. Anthony, you need 3 people in your life to unlock 100% of you. The first person you need is a mentor. A mentor's job is to see your enemies before you do and provide vision, direction, and guidance as you continue to make your meandering path down the road of life. Yeah. Bouncing off the guardrails of wrong decisions.
I like that.
The second person you need in your life is you need a student. because you need to listen to everything you learn with two ears, one for yourself and one for someone to share it with. Because in teaching, you ingrain understanding knowledge, because to know something and not to do it is not to know. But to know something and to share it, teach and explain it with specificity and understanding means that you actually now have ownership. So you can go from, you can listen to a podcast right now and you have nobody to teach it to. Best, on your best day, 12 to 15% retention. Best. Most people is 1%. They barely remember anything. But if you have to listen to that podcast and you have to teach it to someone else, it's like, bang, it goes 65 on the downside if you suck, 92 if you actually are, you're in your game, you're in flow. Here's the third person though in the trifecta. You need the peer partner. You need people who are equals. It's sometimes competitors, but it's not a competitive thing. It's about sharing and connecting and kibitzing, like just talking and sharing around, getting insights, right? Because sometimes it's too, I remember meeting with my mentor and it got to the point where it's like, he just made me feel like, oh my God, I don't want to say anything wrong to him, because I had so much respect for him. So I couldn't necessarily be myself and learn how to express it out. I needed a peer group for that. But I also didn't want to teach. I didn't want to teach dumb things to my students. So I was like, zip it, right? I said, don't say dumb stuff to the people you're teaching, right? So I had nowhere to express. So the trifecta of success is essential. Well, inside of our entire company is the trifecta, a mentorship program, a peer partner program, and a student program. But inside of our technology is the life map guidance system. The guidance system has three things. It has a life map framework, which is actually the 10 areas of your life locked down right there in front of you. You're like, oh, I can see my whole life, like right there. The second thing is, does every one of those areas have all the content of the greatest speakers in the history of the world, all loaded in? Whoever you're listening to, we just take their content, drop it in. It's like, I tell people, I said, we have the glass. Most people just give water. You go listen to Tony Robbins or name any speaker out there. They're all amazing, but they're just pouring water all over the place. They never tell you where to put it. Then they say, hey, Anthony, you're listening to this audio. Go over to your life map. We're going to talk about relationships today and put it in this section in your life, in your relationship section. You go, oh. So it's like context. Context is different than content. Context is the glass. Content is the water. If you go to YouTube right now or podcast, there's water pouring all over the place, but nobody's making a change. They're not making a difference. They're just pouring water. They're just vomiting all over everybody with all this stuff instead of giving them tactical, strategic execution on content.
Yeah, so I noticed that the reason why they do that is because they want you to buy the book. They want to have the coaching, the one-on-one, coaching.
So the last piece that we think makes us special is that we have the glass, we have the water, but we have the life map assessment, which is we do like a fun little 10, hey, on these 10 areas, what would you score yourself? Kind of like a subjective, like, oh, I scored myself a 63. You just make stuff up, right? But then we have an in-depth 100 questions, 10 areas, 10 questions on a score of 1,000. And man, I'll tell you what, that will wake you up at the core. And you're like, whoa. And what we do is we go into each area, deep dive and say, tell us about this, tell us about that. And then what it does is it unlocks all the areas that are preventing you. Now you've got awareness. You see, you cannot manage what you do not measure. You can't change what you're not measuring.
Yeah, this is true.
It's all subjective. You're just like, oh, I feel this and I feel that. Well, that's really cute. And tomorrow you'll feel something different. But how are you measuring that? Contextual measurement is a secret to truly making transformation and shift, right? So that's why what we're doing is kind of like, we're just kind of like we're in a completely different category. Even if you go to the biggest speakers in the world, they're continuing to vomit content at people and buy my book. Well, where does the book fit in Anthony's life right now? It's a better question. You don't need more content. We need more context around that content so that your life can see a measurable improvement. If you score a 3 in money, well, how do you make that a 4?
It's interesting that you bring this up because I find myself frustrated at times where I've read a lot of books and I consume a lot of YouTube content, and I feel like I hit this wall.
Yes,
where I did too. It's like, okay, I'm done getting information.
I don't need this anymore.
I'm
done.
I'm done.
I'm done.
But what is the next step? because for me, my next milestone is becoming a millionaire. So I know how to apply concepts. Those are easy, really, once you understand them. But it's the intricate parts in between there to get to that point where it's like, okay, because there's a lot of concept talking, a lot of, hey, this is what the mindset you need to have to be a millionaire and stuff like that. But it's not the in-depth details like for me, in particular, to me, in my day-to-day, in my real estate market, with my comps and my vacancy rate, how could I do X, Y, and Z? And maybe it's not out there, maybe it is, or maybe it's just not for free.
Oh, it's out there.
But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes I just I won't read or I won't consume any content for a while because of that frustration.
Yeah. And you take that and amplify it by 100. I was at the point, I was freaking out. I'm like, you guys are all just a bunch of liars. You're just saying stuff to impress yourselves. I said, you're embarrassed. I was very, you can imagine how aggressive I am. And I am tired of this nonsense. I paid I think it was like $5,000 to be at the event. And after 20, they were doing like a speaker extravaganza. This guy's an expert in this. So I'm like, yeah, money. You have to understand I had enough money to go buy to everything. Anthony, I didn't have a problem with money. I was making more money than God. I mean, it was insane, right? And I'm like, would somebody just give me the answers to help me get past my own limitations? And what I realized is they just kept saying, and the secret is this, and the secret is that. I'm like, and I realized they did have secrets, but they only had secrets that fit in a microcosm of my whole life. That was the key. And see, most people think it's what they do that will make them successful. And I'm telling you, that's not true. It's who you be. It's the character. And the character leads to the choices. And the choices are coming from your identity. And the identity creates a series of value exchanges. Value is really what you exchange your resources for. People don't have a money problem. People have a value exchange issue. They don't know what they're worth, so they don't know what to charge. They don't know how to say, I'm worthy of this. They don't know how to do that. So why don't we teach people how to get context around their value so they can change that? So then they can go into the marketplace and say, I can do X for you because of who I'm being. You can trust that I will do this in an integrous way, and I deserve this amount of money.
It's so funny you say that because I had a company trying to hire me as one of their coaches for real estate investing. And they're like, hey, how much would you charge for a session with somebody? I'm like, I don't know, $100. They're like, no. They were like, based off what you've done in your life and, the information that you've already been able to put out, you're worth about $2,000 per person. I'm like, really? Like, I did not see that at all. And they helped kind of give me perspective on what I could provide, what I could bring to the table, because I think, you have a little bit of imposter syndrome, hey, like, what makes me so special? I'm just a guy, just like everybody else, just trying to be successful.
So you have an identity, issues too.
Yeah.
Respectfully, I love you, buddy. I'm just like, dude, you just called yourself out. It's like, I don't even know what I'm worth.
No,
right?
Yeah,
I'd ask you the second question, like, so then who's your mentor? Because clearly they're not giving you the great guidance.
So we'll turn this a little bit on me. So yeah. I don't. So when you talked about this triangle, for those that can't see, Casey earlier was mentioning about the triangle of success. Trifecta. So we got mentor, student, peer, partner.
Yeah. And so there's also a superfecta.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay, yeah, do trifecta. Okay.
So pretty much the peer partner I have, his name is Mike Cavagioni. Him and I, great competitors, but healthy. Like, we definitely help each other out. It's funny, if you go to one of I won't say which page on our website, but if you go to a particular page on both our websites, you can see that we both copied each other. Student, I have people at my job that definitely I talk to a lot about this. So I'm definitely regurgitating the information a lot. More specifically, I started doing that a lot this year and being on other people's podcasts as well. But mentor, I've always kind of had an issue with, actually professionally and personally, finding one that aligns themselves with where I'm trying to be. And so obviously another thing where I bang my head against the wall, you listen to this concept about how to find a mentor. I'm like, this stuff is not it's organic. It sounds like it's organic to me, not where maybe I could email somebody and hopefully they'll respond back. And if you go on the Facebook groups, you will have people that will provide you information and be willing to talk. But that bridge between we're just having a conversation, maybe even one little meetup on Zoom versus you're being this long-standing mentor that's checking up on me. Hey, Ant, how's things going? I know you said you wanted to buy that Airbnb. Show me the comps. Let me look at that stuff, and I'll churn it out for you myself. And then, like, I have never had that consistent experience. Kind of like one-offs,
Without it, you're running at 20% best.
I believe it. Because
I'm not trying to be mean, friend.
No, I believe it.
I'm just like, dude, I remember being alone in the dark, no mentorship, being all that in a bag of chips, and a real man, like a man, walked up and go, dude, you suck. Like, you suck. You suck, right? And I was like, and I was from the clubs. I mean, it's like, you sure you want to say that? I was not afraid to fight. So I was like, and I looked at him, I'm like, why is this 45-year-old doctor telling this 25-year-old superstar DJ that he sucks? But unconscious, as soon as he said it, I'm like, he's totally right. I can't. You've seen how this looks? I can't let that be. You can't get past this. I was holding that guard up. And I go, well, what do you mean by that? He goes, well, if you're so successful, and everyone thinks you're all that, why do you have nothing? Like, why are you achieving nothing? Like, the physical universe doesn't lie. I'm just asking, right? Because I can't see anything that I'd be interested in, is what the doctor said to me. And I was like, holy, bitch slap, right? It's like, wow. And he blew my, I was like, wow, I've never had a man talk to me like a man. Now, a man that wasn't fit, he said, I'm not going to physically beat you up. You beat the crap out of me. He says, I'm a man. I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I have a character. I have virtues. I have values. I have beliefs. I know who I am. You don't know who you are. You're lost, my friend. And I literally melted in front of him. I'm like, how does he know this? And I just literally dropped. I'm like, well, okay. Well, what do you think I should do? He goes, that's the right question. And he literally, Anthony, he pulled out some cassettes. Yeah, back then, I mean, we're talking 35 years ago, right?
Yeah.
He pulls out these cassettes. He says, you need to go home and listen to these. He says, here's my phone number. Back then, cell phones, $2 a minute. So it was his home line with a cable in the wall, and he goes, did you need to go home and listen to these and then call me? He says, if my wife answers, just tell my wife that your name is Casey, right? And that you are working with, his name was Dr. George, and that he will, I'll call you back. Cause he said, I don't want you to freak my wife out. I'm like, yes, sir. Okay. And I literally went, yes, sir. I hadn't called anyone sir in 25 years. Like, I was an arrogant, aggressive, know-it-all little jerk. It was broke mentally, emotionally, spiritually broken. There was a reason I was at that meeting. And then bang, and so life is mentorship, my friend. You see, the greatest enemy you have is yourself.
I agree, because there's been times where I've talked to people, or I've noticed it within myself where I have to immediately, I call it doubt fires. I have to immediately stamp those doubt fires out. Because if you let it go, that fire burn too much, it'll consume you. And then next thing you know, you're
going sideways.
Yeah, yep. Sure. And so I'm really big on that. Everybody, I think you will have the initial doubt or initial insecurities. Everybody will have those, but it's normal. But you being able to fight through those and acknowledge them for what they are. Don't act like and pretend like they're not there. Acknowledge them, attack them, so that you can continue to move forward in life and don't continuously let that, bother you and stop your progression.
Yeah. I've mentored 500 millionaires. You know that, right? I don't know if I put that in my resume or not. I've created 500 millionaires. People have.
Yes, you did. You did, actually.
I couldn't remember. And what I learned through that, Anthony, I don't say that to impress you. I simply say it because when I help people identify themselves as people who are financially successful. In fact, the reason why I really love the title of your podcast, Rich State of Mind, I just was like, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, this guy's the right guy. He gets that it's a state of mind. It's a presence. And that's why I wanted to make sure I shared. It is not about changing a habit or a behavior. It's actually about changing the identity. You are rich in your state of mind. So interestingly enough, what do you think the statistical odds of you attracting a guy like me onto your podcast are? You know,
I would say 1%.
yeah, very small, but going in the right direction. And the next people that you'll continue to track as you elevate your own mindset to, well, you'll see speakers that are ready to pour into your life more of this. That's why people listening to this podcast need to keep listening, because you're going in the right direction. You're doing the right things, right? That's why it was a pleasure to say, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I'll take that one. Right. Because as you know, we have an agent that's booking these for us, right?
No, yeah. And I do appreciate your time, because I don't want people to get so consumed in the monetary thought process. The money will come.
Money is a byproduct of the energy exchange,
yes.
Right? When you become a person of value, people will run to give you money.
Yes, definitely don't want to. So I definitely don't. It's a double-edged sword. Definitely don't want people to say, "Well, money doesn't matter." It does, because you need it to obviously.
It's like
for the shirt that you have on your back, right? Yeah. But at the same time, you cannot get to where you want to be in life, and obviously that will cost money without the proper mindset. And so that's why I try to balance the two out, and that's why I like episodes like this. So I love real estate, but I love episodes like this more than anything, because my upbringing was the struggles that we had was a mindset thing first, and ignorance of not knowing certain things. If we had just changed our mindset, the money would have been fine, and then my life would have been different. But hey, things happen, and that's why I am the way I am, and that's why I had this passion. Because Rich State of Mind was funny. It was kind of like a play on my last name, Richie, but then also the state of mind part came from my wife, actually, to get people into the thought process. It's an all-inclusive thing. And so we have these family meetings, usually weekly, where trying to get everybody on the same page to, hey, look, these are the things that we need to do. This is the things you need to change about you. And then this is what the results of those things after you change, what will happen, and how everybody will flourish. Because I think naturally we're a little selfish too.
You know who teaches that, right?
Who?
Will Smith.
Oh, okay.
Will Smith, the guy, I love that guy. That guy's amazing. Will Smith, I'll tell you, that guy's figured it out. How to be in a marriage, how to be with his kids. He's doing the right things. I mean, I love Will Smith. He's probably one of my idols. I would say that on a scale in the top 10, I would put Will.
He's got a book coming out, I believe. Or is it already out?
Who he be is all for me. It's who he be. I know he's done incredible things, but that's because he be the right person. That's it. I'll give you a quote from that I heard from a pastor. He says, "Money's either an idol or a tool."
But it is supposed to only be a tool.
But it's an idol or a tool. And if you see people online and they're flashing Lamborghinis and gold chains, it's like, man, you need to walk. You don't need to walk away from those people. You need to run.
It always gives me a cringy feeling, because there's one guy in particular I'm thinking about where him and I kind of started in this space around the same time, and he has been able to put himself in a position where he can live on this life full time. And then it was this one commercial he did where he had like this Lamborghini. I'm like, yeah, you don't usually do that type of stuff. And he drove off with it, and in the commercial that he did, I was just like, I wonder what his message was behind that, because somebody like me, I don't know. I've noticed that real wealthy people that I've seen, they're not really with flashy things. You couldn't even tell.
You gotta, I'll give you it, Anthony, is you go through the phase where you need to own things to validate that you're worthy.
There you go. Okay.
Right. So my first house I ever bought was 12,600 square feet on 25 acres in the richest neighborhood in Northern Toronto. Like, and it was because I was trying to, I'll earn this. I'm rich. I'm the, and then 8-car garage filled, boats, like I had everything, every toy except a plane. And I was almost bought a plane. And I remember sitting there, and my mentor came to me, he says, "When did you decide to go off track?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "You are worthy. You are a good person. You don't need a bigger house or more cars to prove that you're successful." Because I was trying to validate myself by showing people that I had earned success. And then literally today, I'm so opposite to that. It's like, people are like, does this guy have any money? It's like, it just like, it's like, I've shifted because I'm like, oh my God, I don't need to tell anybody. In fact, like I used to wear, I had a presidential diamond Rolex, 446 diamonds on it, 12 karat diamond ring. What would Jesus do bracelet? I mean, I'm just crazy stuff. Like I had 72 carats of diamonds on my Jesus bracelet. Like, what is wrong with me? And then finally I stopped. I said, oh my God, I've hooked up to this. I bought, see, they say, Casey, you seem to be very wise. I said, well, how'd you become wise? So I'll be through experience. So how do you get experience? Well, I said, you make a lot of mistakes. You don't learn squat when you're being successful. You learn when you're successful and you start losing it all. That's when wisdom shows up. Anthony, I'm not that great. I've just been beat to hell, my friend, to the point where I've had it all. I've lost it all. I've done it right. I've done it wrong. I've done it good. I've done it bad. I'm just a guy that's just been desperately trying to find the truth. And that's why, it's like, that's why I'm gifting away all the stuff with HPI. I'm like, just listen, people, like, save yourself. I tell people that mentor does two things: see your enemy before you do, and they accelerate time. I'm 57. How old are you, buddy?
I'm 30.
30, right? So I can save you 27 years. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, or you can spend 27 years. Good luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Good luck, man. Just have at it. Not like we all have it.
Okay, great that you brought that up. So with your clients, how are you able to, kind of weed out or identify exactly where they're at in their life and how you can help them based off their circumstances? Oh,
that's easy. So one of the things I do when I first start working, and I'm not talking, are you talking about my business consulting life or
yes.
my business? Okay.
Yeah. HPI.
So actually, no, that's not my consulting. That's my gift. My passion project is HPI.
Yeah. So
I'm gifting all that content away. You can go do all my stuff for free right now. Like, I'm gifting it all away.
Nice.
I don't know if you know that or not.
No. I didn't know it was for free. I was just saying that it was all
like all we're trying to do.
There, but I was like, well, okay, well, maybe he's got some more stuff. Like, if you personally talk to him,
we're gifting it away in the pay what you want at the end. So pay what you want at the end model.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because my attitude is like, listen, if I ain't worth squat, I'm just another seminar speaker saying, hey, Anthony, pony up $2,000, $5,000, whatever program that is. Like, and I got nothing negatives about that. I'm just reporting what's true for me. What's true for me is like, well, if you're all that in a bag of chips as a coach, then coach them and have them be so successful that they share it with you. Which part of that does not make sense to you? Like, in my business consulting, which is separate than Human Potential International, I walk in and I'm aggressive right at the gate. It's like, and I go after the person who's hired me, who usually says, I have a business problem. I said, you don't have a business problem. You have a thinking problem, and you're the problem. And unless you're willing to break that down and honestly hold yourself accountable to a different standard, nothing's going to change here. And you'll just hire and fire me, right? So here's my fee. I guarantee I can solve it, but I have to solve you. And so all of my investment is getting the owner or the executive team or the management or whoever's in charge of the particular vertical or whatever problem is that they're bringing it to me. I fix them, they fix the problem, then they call me back and go, dude, you're right. It was always the way. It's never the problem. It's the way I'm looking at the problem. Every time, not once, not twice, every single time, right? Because everywhere you go, there you are. How you do something is how you're doing everything. And that's just because we are habitual animals. There's a crazy book called Cybernetics, written 40 years ago. Terrible name, brilliant book. The brain, the physiology of the human body is to basically build everything into systems and patterns, because we would never have enough blood flowing through the brain to be able to sustain ourselves. We would have to be eating 10,000 calories like every day just to survive, because the amount of blood flowing to the brain is over 30% of the blood. And every time you're trying to burn neural pathways, you're just chewing up, right? So instinctively, humans are built cybernetically to build in these mechanisms to habitualize everything. So systemically, you show up doing the same thing every time. You think you're doing it differently. That's how tricky the brain is. But you're doing the same thing through same lens, same narrative, same concept. Like, you do it over and over and over, and you don't even know you're doing it. And then you look out at everyone else. You people are all wrong. which in itself is its own habit. And I'm like, well, there's the problem. Everywhere you go, there you are. Don't you notice that all the problems come with you? So in HPI, we begin with a pretty, just an assessment. We stand back, say, here's life map, here's 10 areas, here's some content to give you some perspective. But until we assess you, we have no idea where you are. Now, you may be a genius in one area and a complete, completely inept. Like you just don't even, I don't like the word ignorant, but the word ignorant stands for unknowing. I am unaware of the information. That's someone who is ignorant, right?
Yes.
And it's like, but that word's, it's not my favorite word. But anyways, my point is like, I don't like to call someone ignorant, but they are unaware of the information. Therefore, they're choosing really bad choices. So the assessment sits them down and says, hey, we took a look at your life. We did 100 questions, 10 in each area. We give you a score out of 1,000. You look at it and you go, oh, and you'll know right away. You'll go, yeah, this area of my life sucks. Whatever that area is. It could be relationships. If you go through breakup after breakup or divorce after divorce, I'm sorry, it's you. It's like if you make money, lose money, make money, lose money, make money, lose money, it's you. Like, if your business succeeds and fails, succeeds and fails, succeeds and fails, it's you. Like you can tell me whatever story you want if you want to believe it, but it's not true. The physical universe doesn't lie. The problem is you.
This is true.
Right.
That does put things in perspective on people grasping reality.
Yeah.
Because I think we have a hard time. We don't like you said earlier, we don't want to be told we suck. And so most people, are they going to sit there and acknowledge it to themselves without anybody else telling them, hey man, you really suck, without it being in a very in a way to where they put themselves in a depression, just giving them a critical constructive criticism. Yeah.
And building the right environment to empower someone to hear some truth is obviously the key, right? Like, it's like, if you didn't make me feel safe on this call, Anthony, I wouldn't be myself. Like right now, I'm just being me. I'm raw. I don't care. I swear, I'm sorry. I have 6 kids. I mean, my kids think I'm nuts. I mean, but they love me because it's like, there's no, like, I ball right there in front of them. I'm like, oh my God. They're like, Dad, like, God, put yourself together. My God. But I'm like, listen, I've spent most of my younger life putting masks on. No, I got to look this way and look that way. I got to sound like this and sound like, and it's like, I don't want to be that guy anymore. I don't want to be that guy that's a fake with big diamond rings and watches and fancy cars. And I just sold my Hellcat. I love my Hellcat. I didn't buy it for anyone else. They're like, why are you buying a Hellcat? I'm like, because I want to. It was green and stripes and carbon fiber on the top. It's like, and it was just, I bought it for me until I didn't need it anymore. And I discarded it. Like, it's like, it didn't own me. I owned it. Like it was, I've learned how to use things, not have them own me.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's this magic about that. Right. And that's where the truth is. And so, when people are trying to find the right path, if it looks glitzy and glamour, like walk away. That's not truth there. The truth about change, transition, identity shift, transformation, it's emotional. It's hard. It's dark. It's frustrating. It does have sadness at times. And don't let that scare you away. Let it be the signal of truth. It's like, yeah, is this going to be upsetting to me? Yeah, it's going to hurt, because until you're honest, you're just lying about everything. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, again, a repetition of the cybernetic mechanism, repeating a lie to itself over and over again. Right. It's like, it's just the magic of the way things happen. So my hope is just to gift away some awareness. I think people would do better if they knew better. I think people would choose better if they were aware that there was a choice to make. I don't think people are aware. I think that social media is the most dangerous, destructive, narcissistic, destroying the fabric of humanity, because it's lies. It's just people posting crap like about, oh, I did this and I am looking at that, and making other people feel less than. And separating people instead of, it's, people think it's, Facebook's inclusive. It's like, no, it's the most exclusive, divisionary tool I've ever seen. If you say this online, then 4,000 comments on it, like, oh, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. I'm like, what? I'm not allowed to have an opinion now? Like it's like the license to attack people.
Yes.
Like, it's
social
like,
media has turned into that to a certain extent.
yeah. And it's like, and I remember a time when Facebook was good. It was nice that people could post things, but the divisionary tool of the fact that big pharma now owns all of Facebook, and they own Google, and you can't get any truth anymore. It's sad. It makes my heart sad. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, so I remember I never complained. Here's a great quote. Never complain about what you permit. Never complain about what you permit. If you permit that, that's your fault. That's on you. Gotcha. So I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I said, what can I do about that? It's like, oh, well, by the way, Human Potential used to be a deeply for-profit venture. I was charging people $5,000, come study with me. I'm all that in a bag of chips, and people got the value. They walked away, they were certified, and they got certificates, and they got the skills, and they walked away. And at a point, I kind of felt like that was the right answer. I was following the Tony Robbins model, following, all the speakers models. And then one day I woke up and said, I can't do this anymore. I watched somebody mortgage their house to buy a $5,000 program with us, came to the event. Their marriage was falling apart because they mortgaged the house. They went and got a line of credit on the house to come up with $5,000 to be sitting in my audience. They're leaving their husband and all. And I'm like, I'm a contributor to that. And if I am not honest with myself that I am contributing to that, I'm a liar. I'm like a big fat liar. And I walked away to hand the company back to my other partner. Said, listen, guys, go do your thing. God love you. Like, it's all great. I cannot sleep at night doing this anymore. I said, I won't come back and never do this again until I can do it for free. And then people will pay what they want at the end because the value was so deep. They're like, dude, like, I'm not going to give you money just because I just want you in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
yeah.
My life, man. Like, I will give you $100 just to look at me, for God's sakes. And to me, that's pure reciprocity. That's the true essence of, to me, that's true mentorship, true coaching, true love. That's what it is. So, and that's why our model is built the way it is.
I'm gonna have a hard time finding my favorite quote for this podcast episode on my show notes. I think you said a great wealth of wisdom. I like how you mentioned, hey, how old are you? How old am I? Yeah, I could save you 27 years. There's a lot in that. I speak to my father often, and there's a lot of time that he saves me when he tells me about, certain things he went through as a man and as a father. That has, obviously saved me a lot of headaches. So trifecta, I want to say this again: mentorship or mentor, peer partner, student. You got to have those three things. And I think this is the first time I've ever heard somebody explain that in anything I've ever consumed, but it makes a lot of sense because I can actually personally relate to that and how just having those two out of the three, how it's kind of changed. And I know the third one, having that mentor would be obviously life-changing.
Revolutionary.
Definitely revolutionary. And so I want people to find you. Where can people find your HPI, or just find you to get more information about this?
Yeah. So, I mean, Human Potential International, terribly long name, but it's the only one we could get with the .com. So, but Human Potential International, they can go there. There's coaching there. And we're putting together like an alpha run of all this intellectual property. And, by the time maybe someone hears this, it'll be obviously in beta and eventually out to the market. But we just want to share intelligence with the world and advanced awareness. We really believe if people knew better, they do better. And I imagine by the time someone listens to this thing, they'll probably have coaching. I have a mastermind. Like, I just want to be clear, Anthony. I'm only probably wise because I've made a lot of mistakes. I don't want anyone to get off this and say, oh, that guy's really, he's like, listen, I suck, man. I suck hard. Areas of my life, I suck so bad, but I know I suck. You know what I mean? Like, I know, and you know what I'm also committed to suck less.
Okay.
It's someone says you suck. Yeah, but I can suck less. You suck until you suck less. And then, the next thing is I have a mastermind of people I've asked to be around me. They're just dear friends and people around me. So I've sought that mentorship in a mastermind, bringing other brains together and say, hey, if we're going to do this, how would we do this? How do we do this in a way that blesses people? And for me, that's what it is. So again, thank you for having me on, my friend. It's
seriously
a pleasure.
And I do have one last question. I like to ask everybody at the end of this. What do you consider your rich state of mind, your big why, as to the reason why you do what you do? Because you have a lot of passion in this. You've been doing this for a long time, even to the point where you're doing this for free, which is you don't hear obviously often at all. So
Yeah.
If you could summarize your big why.
My why is at the core is is my 6 kids. I didn't do it right. And as a parent, you can't get your kids to listen to you. So if I can pass the wisdom out through other people, my kids listen without a filter. I don't know what's going to happen with my grandkids. Hopefully they think I'm okay. My grandfather's crazy, but he's loud. But the big thing is you do it for free because it's the right thing to do. When you've in a divine state, there's no scarcity. There's abundance in sharing. If this was 1,000 years ago, we'd be trading chickens and wheat, and we'd be doing it different, right? We'd be like, of course I'll help you. Of course you're in my community, friend. And community social gatherings were maximum 150. And if you study sociology, groups can't grow much more than 150. And then there's a breakout leader and they break off. And this is how communities are developed, right? So in my big why is, I don't know how many people I can touch, but probably can touch the people that want to be touched in this micro community. So that's my passion. My passion is the fact that I didn't do it right. And maybe I've hurt people, but maybe I can make it right.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for your transparency on that too, man. I could definitely see the emotions behind that and how much that actually really means to you, your big why. So it's funny, man, because as you're getting emotional, I had a mentor back when I was about 18, and he said, if your why doesn't make you cry, then what are you doing it for? So clearly you have a reason for why you're doing your why. Thank you so much, Casey.
Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you for sticking with us from the start of the episode. Please share our show with friends and family, visit our YouTube channel, and view more of our content on richstateofmind.com. See you next week on the Rich State of Mind Show.